Christmas Eve last year, the flood defences that protect the Kentish town of Tunbridge failed, and 180 cubic metres of water a second rushed into this town, flooding 300 properties in Tunbridge and the surrounding area. I'm Lorna Harrington, a director at BCH and an expert in assessing rebuild costs for insurance, and I'm here today to talk to you about insurance valuations and to tell you why you should be interested in them. One of our key areas of expertise is blocks of flats, and today we are here in Tunbridge to look at 3 different developments and to think about what specifically impacts their building sum insured. Well, it's a beautiful day, so let's go and see what we can find. We've arrived at our first site. We're going to call this our new build development because it dates from within the last 10 years or so. Here we need to think about the specific location. We're only 20 metres from the river, so how would that impact any rebuild? We need to take that into account. Though you can't see it totally here, this building is surrounded, you can hear the cars, on 3 sides by roads. So it's quite a landlocked site. Where would you put a site office? Where would you store materials? That needs to be taken into account. Thirdly, it's quite tall. It extends 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories of living accommodation with an undercroft car parking to the rear. We need to take into account the car parking, the entrance, the electric gates, all the external walls, and anything over 2 to 3 stories needs more of a consideration because, for example, are there lifts? Okay, that's enough on the new build. Let's move on to the next one. Across the country, many older buildings have been converted into blocks of flats. So here we are in a part of town that has some older buildings. And what do we need to think about here? We need to think about, are they listed? Are they in a conservation area? If they are, we're going to need to put into the valuation a higher amount of professional fees because of the elongated planning process and the different body of experts that would need to be involved. On an older building, you also need to think really carefully about the materials from which it was constructed. So here we see some buildings constructed from stone. Stone is significantly more expensive to rebuilding than brick and needs to be taken into account when preparing the rebuild valuation. We also need to think about what is inside these homes. They will have high lofty ceilings. A higher ceiling means more bricks, more wiring, more everything. We might find nice fireplaces, some cornicing. These period features all cost money and need to be taken into account when preparing the building's valuation for insurance. Here we are in our town centre location, and we're considering this building here that's got commercial property on the ground floor and flats above. In this kind of scenario, you need to think about the impact of party walls and the terrace construction and how that affects the reinstatement cost assessment. We also need to think about VAT because where you have a building in both commercial and residential use, that needs to be thought about very carefully. And finally, in the town centre location, we're going to come across those access difficulties again, roads, storage, and the proximity of all the other buildings around it. I hope you've enjoyed our tour of Tunbridge. So if you're concerned about a building you own or live in, do call us today or visit our website. And remember, we are RICS regulated, we sit on the panel of lots of leading insurers, and our director, Martin Barrett, contributed to the RICS guide on how to prepare a reinstatement cost assessment. So your building valuation is safe in our hands.